right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation starts now with Arnold Maliba, party leader, PPA, that is the Progress Plus Alliance. Thank you for making time. Diana Ngao, Communications Director, PLP, that is People's Liberation Party, and Kasmuel Makoure, ODM Youth League. We're still waiting for Paul Mugambi, political and governance expert. As soon as he comes in, we'll drop him into the discussion. Keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Maliba, you organized a rally for jobless youth, and that did not take off. But first, before we even get there, why did you leave UDA?
Allow me just to say a line on what we've concluded, then I'll respond to that. Quickly, I need to say this, that one of those things that is saddening me as a Kenyan is that Kenya is borrowing so heavily from Uganda that after the Battle of Kampala, between 17th of January to 29th, President Museveni, after being sworn in on 29th of January 1986, started, and he's actually the person who coined the word broad-based democracy. And for quite about 5-7 years, he ran with the broad-based politics, bringing different teams together so as to govern Uganda that was actually fragile at that particular end. Quickly, we have moved on from the broad-based politics today, and now you actually can even see our CDF now also being mentored by Mohozi. The only thing that is left of Kahariri is to open a TikTok account and some X account and start ranting. If he goes this way, we must call him and tell him to go back to DOD. Hurlingham wants him, he should actually stay there. Having said that, I was part and parcel of the bigger team. Actually, the team is called the National Alternative Alliance, that doesn't believe in the loyal, what they call the loyal opposition, where there is the former DP, PLP and the others, and then of course part and parcel of government. We feel that we are not represented by either of those, so we are trying to actually come up with an alternative. We call it the National Alternative Alliance, because somehow the media and the politicians are trying to force us into this frame of thinking that you can only either look to the Rigathi side or look at the BBG side. That is not the truth. A country of over 55 million people cannot be limited to a choice of two sides, especially when you have got, in 2027, 54% of all the voters will be millennials and Gen Zs. And therefore, you cannot force a nation like that to look either to the loyal opposition, or rather the Rigiji side, or the William Ruto and Raila side. So we are deliberately coming up with an alternative. So we came up with the, we decided to do a rally on Monday, a jobless rally. So we wrote to the county government of Nairobi, actually specifically to the governor. We explained to the governor that the people who will be attending this rally are jobless. They therefore cannot have money to pay for a venue. So he should actually allow us to make use of Uhuru Park. Sakaja denied the hustlers of Nairobi a chance to meet at Uhuru Park. And consequently, of course, the police then also denied us an opportunity. But then, of course, if you look at the Constitution, we are just supposed to notify the police and then have that particular engagement. But then, as I spoke to the officer who came to the scene, Trevor, the event was actually successful because we came, and since 6 a.m., the police were already mobilized. Anybody who was getting into Uhuru Park, you could not get 3 people together were actually asked to disperse. So since 6, we tried to meet severally until when we almost had a confrontation at about 11 going to midday, but they kept on dispersing. And because we simply wanted to have a dialogue, it's a country of dialogues. People are having dialogues in different forms. The people who are jobless also want to have a dialogue. So we made a very constitutional ask. Number one, Governor for Nairobi denied the people who are jobless a place. He told us actually to pay. You're asking people who don't have a job to pay for a place. That we will remember in 2027. The police also decided to break the law. They did not tell us why they denied when we were just supposed to notify them. And the officer who was sent, the senior officer who was sent to speak to me, told me that according to the Public Order Act, an officer can deny, and if the officer denies you a chance, you go to the High Court. Clearly, and that is why I am actually a little bit livid with when I see the CDF and the DG from TR, that is Thika Road, sitting up and trying to talk us down, when the police have already told me that you go to court. If you want to do a rally of jobless people, go to court, and then we will meet there. In short, he's simply telling us that they will not allow us. Of course, we promised that we will be back on Monday. We will be back on Monday at a time and place of our choosing, because we already have spoken to them and they have demonstrated that they are not going to follow the law. That's why now you find even military chiefs and the NIS chief coming to tell us that if you have to do, must go do it constitutionally. If they deny our constitution, what moral right do they have to then tell us that we should do this must go thing and constitutionally? They are taking away our right to simply convene and have a conversation. So we will be back on Monday in different streets across the country at a time of our choosing on Monday. And we will do that until the government of the day decides that unemployment is a big issue. We cannot have 6 million people educated who do not have jobs. Only the Ministry of Health has actually done a report on the impact of USAID withdrawal. That is about 38,000 people directly employed by USAID, 400,000 people who actually are supported by USAID-sponsored programs. Those are middle-class people who now have been sent to penury. But then no one in Parliament is speaking about it. We are being told that if we want to meet and come up with strategies to inform budget and inform decision makers, that we have to go to High Court. When a police officer tells you to go to court so as to actually meet, he's simply telling you that you have to prepare. And this then tells me that for those who actually want an alternative, for progressive forces out there, that we must actually strap up and then face the fate of the Mau Mau, face for the people who fought for the second liberation, because now they are stereotyping us, calling us terrorists, they are now calling us anarchists. They now want to tell us go to court, as if they already know what will happen there, simply to get a notification.
What I find strange is that just the other day you were with a UDA official.
Trevor, we've had that conversation with you here. I don't know why you want it again.
Let's have it again. Why did you move?
Trevor,
at what point did you realize that UDA is not the place to be?
First of all, Trevor, I supported UDA and Kenya Kwanza from August of 2022 to December 2024. That is 26 months. My stay in UDA was longer than 97% of Nairobi's relationships. Because an ordinary Nairobi relationship is about 3-4 months.
17 business days.
So, and in 26 months is a long time to actually see, because I'll tell you, one of those things that I admire of Kenya Kwanza was actually moving us from the politics of identity to politics of issues. That the people supported William Ruto largely. The biggest percentage of the people that voted for William Ruto actually voted for him because he sold an idea. And for the first time, people moved away from these issues about identity. You come from this party, you come from this ethnicity. But then, the one thing I discovered is that along the way, we would make mistakes. And I came here and explained a lot of times on behalf of that particular side, on the policies and everything else. The biggest problem has been that at diagnostics, Kenya Kwanza gets it very well. So they diagnose very well. But when it comes to execution, they then get very cocky. Like, for example, when I came here defending the Shah, conceptually, it makes a lot of sense until you look at the business model underlying it, and then you realize it's just a pyramid scheme that is actually meant to siphon money. So they do good diagnostics, then slap us with a consultant's fee, a very big one that ends up in different pockets. Tell me, I know this, that the bankers of this country were meeting somewhere, and they discussed about the system, the Shah system. And they said, why would a system cost 104 billion shillings? All the bankers in this country, all the banks in this country, they said their system, which is actually more sensitive, all of them put together, cannot even get to a third in cost to the 104. We're talking about financial systems.
104
in cost, it cannot even get to a third, all of them cumulatively, of 104 billion shillings. Do you know what 104 can actually buy us? We are flying, Kahariri is here telling us to do this thing constitutionally. We are flying second-generation jet fighters. When 104 can actually get his men a squadron of F-16, his men are flying just post-Second World War birds. And the 104 billion shillings can get him a full squadron of F-16 and actually train them and equip them. We are at a place where we are disadvantaged. But you see, so unless you look at the business side, you wouldn't get that as much. So, to be fair, if I'm going to talk about why I left UDA, I would want to do that on a podium, on the presidential debate podium with William Ruto next to me. But at the moment, fair enough, I have got my Article 38 rights to move on and do something else. But the details, the real reasons as to why I left, I will do that standing next to him in 2027 during the presidential
election. Is that a
election.
declaration that you're running for president?
You heard it first.
Wow.
So you've declared here that you're running for president?
As in,
I love
Did I have water in my mouth when I spoke?
You haven't said it. I'm not saying it. You need to say it yourself.
I said I will declare it next in the presidential debate.
Okay.
Next to him. But as it were, all Kenyans actually have got one consensus. People buy their own tickets with their own money to go and watch a match on their own. If they had been mobilized by other people, you would actually say that they had been socialized to speak differently. But at Nyayo Stadium, people who bought a ticket using their own money, hard-earned money in this difficult economy, and they sing one song. And that is why, when they say Ruto must go, you must listen.
Okay.
That people are saying something.
And when you say Ruto must go, it's not just the person. It is basically the political culture and the governance that's there. You see, a government is judged by how it's the service to its people. And currently, where we are at midterm of the Ruto regime, it has failed. And that's why we see the increasing of Ruto must go. So it's not just Ruto must go, let's remove the president. It's a complete bad governance that we are seeing growing more and more. And that's what people are saying. It's not just Ruto. It is the whole elitist class.
But Diana, is it time to change course? Because all of you have been through this before. Now Maliba is the one on the receiving end, trying to hold rallies and protest and do a cat and mouse with police. You've done the same thing, all of you actually here. Is it time to change course and do something different? Like engage, for example.
If you look at history, Trevor, the times where we have dialogues, it's more of where now consensus happens, where actually the actual issues that people are actually complaining about are thrown out of the window. It is what we saw at NADCO. NADCO was supposed to, the issue, when they went to the table, it's like we're trying to solve the cost of living, and that was what the Azimio protest came. But when we saw the NADCO report, the cost of living was out of the window. We've seen even in history, back then, even in 2018, during the handshake of Raila and Uhuru, right? We only saw more elitist. BBI came up after that. There was nothing about the people. So when you say that we need to change course, already history has shown us at the moment we try and dialogue with a political class who feel like leadership is a title deed, that they must hold close to them and they cannot leave. Yeah. Even when people have said you have failed us, then it's like talking to a brick wall. Yeah. And expecting something in return. But
that same accusation you're making can be made against your party as well, because we saw the former Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, join your launch from NAK Kenya to PLP.
Actually,
in fact, most people are saying that is also the worst indication yet that you're bringing
I like that you brought this up. I like that you brought this up.
That have already been rejected.
If actually, we actually invited all political party leaders who are not in the current regime. We invited all, you saw Jimmy Wanjigi there. We invited all of them. It is not just Rigathi who came as if that we were giving him his flowers for being impeached as deputy president. We invited everyone. And at that point also, we knew that Rigathi Gachagua had intended to register his own party.
Which he says he'll be doing in May.
Exactly. So if anything, our call, if you had it during the launch, is that all Kenyans, all progressive Kenyans, including my dear friend here, we must unite because we need to have this conversation. If we continue like this, if we let such things that are happening in our country, so make it so blasé, and ensure and not have a united front against the oppressive political culture, we will end up even worse where we were during the Moi regime. And that was our message. We must unite and liberate. So it is not about Rigathi Gachagua or banding with political rejects. No, it's about the people of Kenya.
Okay. Kasmuel, but you now have changed the course. You see, that's a funny thing with the political teams and having a discussion with all of you in the political class. Because on one end, you are on the streets. Now you're not on the streets. Now you're thinking of having a conversation with the current regime. Arnold was in the regime. Now he's thinking of going back to the streets.
Not thinking.
No,
he is. He's already back.
And Trevor should actually also be fair historically, because when you met me first 10 years ago...
Maliba has always been militant, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, but
you met me first 10 years ago.
That I have to give that... and that's why I was saying, we have now to lay honest frameworks that the people who are currently vilifying, for example, the Orange Democratic Movement found their wings from the Orange Democratic Movement, including the party leader of Progress Plus Alliance and the communications director of the People's Liberation Party. However, I think if we're going to talk progress, we have to be absolutely honest. And here I will have to go a bit ballistic on PLP. You see, PLP has been a party of conversation. They cannot be having a 20-year-old conversation. You see, for us to change this thing, for example, let's say PLP decided to walk out of any political formation. It would leave no dent because even at their polling station, they have not been able to garner votes to get a legislator.
You're talking about a former party. We are now a new party called PLP.
That's what I'm saying.
About a former
That's what I'm saying. It's like me saying, I'm talking about NAC.
Yes.
But it is me saying that as Casmuel, I have never, I'm poor. I have 0 shillings in my bank account. Therefore, I shall call myself Makoure, and therefore we shall forget that Casmuel has 0 shillings in the bank account. PLP, former NAC, has no legislators in parliament, and that's why we see.
And if anything, let me just...
And I'm not saying this in bad faith. Let me just land.
We do have legislators in the county assembly.
Dana, you're here.
Yes,
so
yes, I promise I will land, and I'll give you the right to respond.
Your points, I'll give you a chance to respond.
Yes.
Because he's mentioning you adversely. So
yes. So, no, certainly. Yeah. If you tell me that, if they stood for something, if they were like Chama Kubwa, it would be very different because they can take a direction. You will not see Chama Kubwa inviting political rejects to their functions. We do not need clout as Chama Kubwa because we have actually invested in grassroots mobilization. The reason why I disagree with the communications director of the People's Liberation Party is you cannot tell me that you're calling yourself a progressive party. And one of the guests, the people you hold brief for, are people who say...
Who said you're holding brief for Honorable Rigathi Gachagua?
Okay, then. Yeah. The people who you are allied to... Sorry, I misspoke there. The people who you are allied to and hope to unite to take Kenya forward hold beliefs like the Kikuyu community will rule Kenya for 100 years. That is on one hand. On the other hand, you have a senior council who, on one side of the mouth, says that they are fighting corruption. On the other side, are willing to show up on the dock for a person who has been convicted for corruption. This very same corruption that you're telling us you want to fight. These are the people who are calling themselves the people's loyal opposition. These are people who want to show up.
That is what Kalonzo is calling.
Yes, but
that's
your friends. I'm saying your allies. I'm saying people you're allied to. Yes. Your allies.
Famous,
I'm saying the allies of the PLP, calling themselves a progressive party. These are the people, they've looked right, left. They've not thought, can we partner with Gen Z and bring Gen Z to the top? Can we partner? So let me land. I'm landing. To buttress Maliba's point, and here we have to have a sober discussion as Kenyans. It is an unfortunate thing that there are Kenyans who will go through the plight that the people from Progress Plus Alliance went through, because those who make a peaceful revolution impossible will make a violent revolution inevitable. And what we are seeing currently, and these are things which we raised yesterday at the National Intelligence and Research University, we told them that there seems to be, and the party leader here is a case in point, is the most recent case study, that there is a difference in this country between the law and the law in action. It's the same thing that is bedeviling this Kenya Kwanza government, where, as Maliba aptly puts it, that in terms of diagnostics, they are doing very well. But on this other side, the law, what we have written on paper, is rather flowery and is very beautiful. And this is what I would like to dissuade people from, because I speak as a person who's been both militant and now I've said we are going to retreat, recoup, and relaunch. Because when I go back to my constituency, when I go back to Ndach in Madare, when I go back to Voke in Eastlands, when I go back to Obilo, we've decided to say that because we are the people who are most affected by police brutality, it is not the elites, it is the young people from these ghettos. We are saying, now, put down, that's why people are saying youth for youth. If you hear us moving in the streets, we say youth for youth, to say, put down your political burdens, put down your religious affiliations. Can we for a moment sit down and say, you and I are facing the same challenge? I might be sounding harsh to my sister, but when we live here, I will not buy unga at 100 shillings because I come from ODM. We will not buy diapers for children because I come from ODM, and they will buy it cheaper because they're looking at liberation. We are saying, as young people, can we down all our affiliations and have a conversation on how we are going to be progressive? Because we will find ourselves in this loop, and that's why now, as we said, we will retreat. I will not expose my friends, my comrades, to police fire for no reason. I cannot endanger the lives of my people from the ghetto when I cannot see a clear end in mind. That's why I told them, now we have a chance to converse. Previously, I was not known. Right now, I can call my party leader and tell him, Baba, this is what the youth in Mathare said. And he tell me, okay, very good, very good. Like today, I'm meeting single mothers. Tomorrow, I'll be meeting other youth. I sit down and I'm always jotting. Then I will present these things because my party leader is close to the president. And even some of these youth leaders are people who helped the president during his tour. We've said, we will have a conversation with him, we'll have a conversation with the county. Yeah. Then if these things are not met, we have said we are retreating, regrouping, and then we can relaunch. But I cannot perpetually lead them to this.
Just to respond to what my brother here has said, you cannot, I'm here as communications director of PLP, not Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper Democratic Party, not for Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. So you may cast as much doubt as you want on them. I am here in the capacity of the People's Liberation Party. And the reason why we are saying, as People's Liberation Party, that we must unite and liberate is the same reason the three of us here have talked about, is that we need to have a conversation as a country. We need to ensure that we stop this oppressive regime from continuing to oppress Kenyans. And not just the regime, but basically the culture. For too long, we have let this happen. Okay. So when you're talking, you're telling me that we're a bit disingenuous, it's like coming to, and because we don't have any MPs in the National Assembly, any political parties, we have almost 101 political parties. Just because they may have not performed well in the what do you call it, in the elections, does not mean they do not have a political right. That does not mean that we cannot argue and say that this is right and this is wrong. Okay. We have a political right, and we're in this space. Whether we are little, whether we are 1, whether we are 15, whether we are 344, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying that argument that's saying that, oh, where PLPs wait and see, because before we were NAK Kenya, now we are PLP. The same strategy that you have taken with the people that you said, we regrouped, we re-strategized, and now we have launched.
It's been 20
so wait and see.
Trevor, just before you bring in Mugambi,
yes, I'll give you a chance.
No, just to respond to say one thing.
Joining us now is Paul Mugambi, a political and governance expert. Paul, thank you for making time. But yes,
I just wanted quickly, Dan and I, plus yourself, of course, come from the communication background, and Mugambi here. Yeah. I would just say this. There's one thing she's forgotten. When Kasmuel spoke about a 20-year-old party, she said they are a new party. Diana would know, and she knows that very well, that clothes don't make a man. And that trying to actually say that there was once upon a time NAK, Kenya, and now PLP is a new party, it will not be the difference. So a new party, just a moment, let me just finish.
You've been a bit unfair here, because you're casting aspirations on me. You've been a bit unfair. We are a new party because we have changed our constitution. We are not the same party. We have changed our constitution.
I give you a chance.
I just wanted to say that clothes don't make a man, and that saying that just because long time ago my names were just Maliba Nyajai, then along the way I was given a Christian name called Arnold. That's why it's actually a second name. It doesn't say that now Maliba Nyajai is no longer Maliba Arnold Nyajai. That's all I'm saying. No, that NAK Kenya, and PLP, as in PLP is just new clothes, purple clothes, I think. Is it baby purple?
It's purple, lilac, and white. But Trevor, you're being a bit unfair here, because they are talking about me, and I'm not getting enough time to actually give my point here. PLP, even though we have changed the name and you're saying, yes, we do have new clothes and new color, one thing that is true, makes us a new party, is that we changed our constitution, which you can go to RPP and check. We changed the constitution. Actually, we are the only political party that has instituted a term limit for the party leader. So we are a new party. We have a new neck. You can see our Secretary General, who is a youth. You can see the deputy chair of the party, who is a youth. You can see the youth league that is vibrant. So we are a new party. We are actually not the same NAK Kenya. And you will see more to come. So you cannot say that we've just changed clothes and we're still NAK Kenya. We are green inside and purple outside. So let me inform you that when we say we are a new party, that People's Liberation Party, we may have the same party leaders as what NAK Kenya had. However, we have made structural changes within the party.
Fair enough. I know
that makes it anew.
That's a fair point, Trevor, because there used to be Zaire, now DRC. DRC is a new country. Zaire was. I
totally agree that the PLP has actually branded to Kotu Purple, Atwoli Purple. But I still maintain that it's still the same outfit as NAK or NAK Kenya.
What makes it the same?
the party leader, you might change the internal structures, but the existence of any political party should be to capture political
Even the communication
power.
director is the same.
It's the same. Yes,
I wasn't the communication director of NAK Kenya.
Yeah, so so I would, I mean, let us not belabor the point. Yeah. However, if they can cast aspersions on the alliance that my party leader is making, they're choosing far worse alliances, and I would not trust them. If this is what they're doing in conversation, without legislators, they are choosing to align with Gachagua, with people who are convicted of corruption. I wonder if they capture political power, what they are going to do.
And you are choosing to align with people who shot your comrades on the street.
And this is what I'm saying.
ODM
that's what I was saying.
ODM didn't.
ODM has not aligned with anyone. We've only signed an MOU.
No, I said ODM did not shoot, but I'm saying they are aligned.
You're forgetting Gachagua was DP. He was DP when my comrades were being shot.
Okay.
By the way, Kasmuel,
he was DP when my people were being shot.
Trevor, you are going to make Kasmuel cry here.
Yes.
Kasmuel, kindly, I love to say this. It's time you took over as the chairperson of the ODM Youth League.
No, this one, first of all, this youth league that we're talking about.
You cannot be Kasmuel ODM Youth League. What do you hold there?
No, it is fair. And this, no, this is a thing which we have to make public, that if the ODM party was not going to elections in the next week or two, we would have done that, because the people who are sitting on that youth league are impersonators. Okay. I could say that they should be jailed for impersonation, but I will not. Okay. They're former people who are 46, that's why we are saying, even establishing comrades alliances, and we are saying it is only because we are respecters of the law and the constitution of the party that we have decided we will go to the election, because we are not afraid. We believe we are electable and we can convince the people. However, youth, representation of the youth should be by the youth for the youth, and that is I know that is a thing which people can cast, but I thank the party leader for bringing it up. But this is a thing which we have put play in that.
Okay. Mugambi, we were talking about, before you walked in, we were talking about that should change course, and a lot of things have come. What is your view? Because you see, like Maliba was trying to hold a rally, it was stopped, and then they've all been on the streets. Now some of them are not on the street. Is there a need to change course?
I think the more things change, the more they remain the same. Maliba made a point at changing your clothes doesn't make you a different man. Yeah. They say in my vernacular, I try to translate, the monkeys may change the forest, but they remain the same monkeys. So I think it's a good conversation, and I think they're speaking about more or less the same things. They're saying, let us regroup as young people, let us re-strategize, let us relaunch. That's what I got from Kasmuel, and I think they're agreeing to that. The challenges that face you, Arnold, Maliba, and Diana, and Kasmuel, and Trevor, we as young people are the same. They're not different. So it doesn't matter where you are, we'll locate you. It doesn't matter where you are, those problems will locate you. So, look, you stay in your PLP, you stay in your ODM, let the other young person stay in UDA. We'll locate our issues and we'll handle them. I think that's a better strategy, other than brandishing some as sellouts or others as this or that. I don't think that's the way to go. The challenges that face us are bigger than the small conversation of who is in which party. I don't think that's matter. There are no angels nowhere. I mean, who is the angel? If PLP is following Rigathi Gachagua, I wouldn't go that direction myself, because I don't think you offer leadership there. But there are young people there who are very important, very critical. How do we locate them, and how do we have a conversation that entrenches young people, mainstreams young people in leadership, so that we have the change that we need now? But we cannot now start bastardizing young people for being in whichever alliance, whichever party. I think that the issues that face us are more or less the same, and we need a stronger alliance to face them.
Yeah. And also, before you came in, there was a massive disagreement here in terms of what the General Charles Kariri said of the Department of Defense, and also Nurdin Haji, NIS. They said that it's on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Seen it.
The issue here was, they say that call for Ruto must go is potentially dangerous for the country because they want it done in a constitutional way. The team here, panelists, were saying that they have their right and they can do it in whichever way they want because Article 1 gives them the sovereignty. What are your thoughts on this? Do they have a point that this has to be done in a constitutional way?
If you want to remove the president or any other person, indeed, for that matter, even MPs and governors and whatever, you must follow the law. It's one thing to say Ruto must go, But also you can ask yourself how. I think that's what, I'm not too sure what their philosophy was when they were talking about this in their minds. I think because they sit in the National Security Council, they might be private to information that I'm not aware of. But not speaking for them, I would say that if Ruto must go, is a right. People can say that, they can shout that, and I don't think the president has an issue with that, or any other person has an issue with that. But are we aligning ourselves? Are we organizing ourselves to make him go? If we, the young people sitting here, who are who are the youthful faces in political organizations in the country, are they ready for Ruto must go if they really mean it? Because if you're not organizing for that, I'm sorry, Ruto will stay. If we are not, you're talking about 17 million voters in the country, I think, in the last election. And then how many young people are there? How many young people do you intend to have in the next election? How are you organizing around the election is won or lost in a polling station? How are we organizing for that? Otherwise, this may remain to be just a chance, you know, in the trend air all over the place. Ruto must go in a club, in a stadium the other day, everywhere else. And I can tell you for sure, the people we are talking about, this or that must go, they are clever than us, they are clever than these young people. They are organizing themselves to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And in fact, now speaking of that, there was a team of Gen Zs that also spoke about this, on how they think it should be done. And the soundbite, Ibra, if we can just bring that up and hear what they're talking about in terms of registration as voters for the coming election. This is what they had to say.
We are doing a mass campaign on voters registration for them to be able to vote come 2027. We are also doing a mass drive for recruitment of youths to our party. And what we need from the government right now is their full support. They allow us to register as voters because we want to elect one of our own leaders who will truly listen to us, will get the representation that the youths are supposed to get in government, and will have a voice that empowers us as the youths of this nation.
We as youth, we should register as members of National Liberal Party for us to elect a leader come 2027 who will represent the youths fully and will listen to us, will listen to our demands as youth.
So that is on one side, but there's also the former Chief Justice David Maraga, who now accepted the endorsement by Gen Zs to run for president. This is what he also had to say.
It's because of that confidence that one can make a decision whether or not he can serve. I have served before in government. I was head of one arm of government. There is no magic about being a head of another arm of government.
Mugambi, is that the organization that you're talking about? On one side, the young people say, now we need to register as voters, and then there's the Chief Justice Maraga who says, now, yes, I've been a head of one arm of government, there's no problem being another head of another arm, and he says he's accepted the endorsement from Gen Zs. I
would want to see more of that, to be honest. It's encouraging. I think they're from a certain party, I'm not too sure which one. It's something Liberation. I didn't get the party quite well, the party name of the young leaders there. I wish it's happening also across all political parties, in ODM, Workers' Maois, in UDA, in PLP, where Diana is, all over the place. Maliba and I used to say a while back that the youth are a force to reckon with. They are not a force to be dealt with. And the issues, we are always stronger together because those issues tie us up together. If we want to face the future, we must face that future together. We can only do this together. If we are in different spaces and fighting against each other, I don't think we'll go far. But also we need to ask ourselves, times are changing. Are we also changing with the time? Are we also adjusting to fit those spaces? Because I don't think our politics in the country are played in 2013 will be the same as 2027. The things are different. The landscape will be completely different. So how are we changing as young people or to be able to occupy political spaces that are largely dominated by people who are not pro-change, who are not young people. If we don't organize, I can tell you, Trevor, this is a journey to nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah, if we organize and prepare for that, it is a journey to nowhere. Yeah.
Speaking of organizing, Maliba, and you said that you're running for president, who are you coalescing with? Because we know for sure that you can't do this on your own. In fact, even your fellow presidential candidates are already making alliances here and there. Who are you planning to join forces with?
When I spoke earlier, I said that we, the progressive forces, and people who think that Kenya can actually be better. You know, normally in this country, for political idea, people who are just starting normally think that politics is some utopia where you can stand alone and somehow stand out as an angel and draw people to yourself. The last man who did that was Jesus Christ.
And you know what happened, eh?
And people actually crucified him. I spoke of the National Alternative Alliance, that we do not feel represented by BBG. We do not represented by the Gachagua team. That for all they speak and say, we don't feel represented, and that on the other side, there's quite a critical mass of people who feel that there should be an alternative.
And BBG's broad-based government, just to be clear.
Originally coined by Museveni and NRM, and we've brought it home here. You know what NRM is doing elsewhere. We don't think we can actually allow that. Looks like it's so sad that the president is inspired by Museveni. Our CDF is now inspired by Museveni's son.
Come back to the conversation.
So, make your point.
Yeah, come back to the conversation.
I'm not lost. I'm making a point.
We can accuse Maliba of many things, but not being lost. Maliba is taking a deliberate journey into the forest.
Anyway, so my point is very basic. That for any other person who feels that that the first liberation was actually to get the white man off and get independence, the second liberation was actually for us to get good governance, the democracy that we have and is embodied in the Constitution 2010, and that the third, and I've always said that is in my opinion, the third and final liberation is socioeconomic empowerment, that it's not enough to actually just be in a free country and also have a robust constitution, a progressive one. It should also reflect in the quality of lives that we live, that for those that believe in the preamble of the Constitution and Article 47, for those that actually live by Article, or rather desire to have Article 10, being the software that runs our country, then they should consider themselves as progressive. So what should they do? Number one, we should regroup, the way Mugambi has said. We should regroup, we should rebuild, and we should rehabilitate. Why am I saying about rehabilitation? The human resource capacity for people who can actually liberate nations is actually scarce. And that is why for all liberation movements, there is always a rehabilitation. People who go astray, like some of us went astray, we've gone back to rehabilitation, then we can actually be deployed to the front line. Kasmuel is actually a man in our ranks who was actually at the front line. He has slightly derailed. When he finds himself, we will bring him back and we will actually rehabilitate him. And because these forces are not as many, Trevor. So when people go out, we will find ways of rehabilitating them and redeploying them. Then we advance. So 3 R's and an A: regroup, rebuild, rehabilitate, and then advance. So the National Alternative Alliance simply is bringing anybody who generally feels that they actually believe in 3 things. That to restore Kenya's international standing, Ruto must go. That to save our economy, Ruto must go. And number 3, for Kenya to move forward, Ruto must go. Anybody that believes in that must join the National Alternative Alliance. And we are bringing together everybody. We have moved away from the politics of identity. Identities are important, but we are moving towards bringing and you have realized that Kenyans already embrace politics of issues. Yeah. It's much, much important to Kenyans than the identities that we bear. So when you say what we're doing, I already had explained on this set that the National Alternative Alliance is bringing together any other person that believes in these 3 things, that internationally we've lost our standing. There's only one way out of that. Ruto must go.
It's the first time I'm hearing that. I mean, the National Alternative Alliance.
Yes, it's actually new.
So if we're in these streets and we've not had anything like that, where are you selling it?
You are not in the streets, Mugambi. You are hidden somewhere. They're waiting to show up.
In these political spaces.
No, you are not. You operate from the back end.
In all fairness, Mr. Mugambi, it is the building.
They're building.
It is a new
It's actually
thing.
just a week old.
And yes.
But let's hear what Diana has
we
to
must
say
give
about
him.
it.
I actually agree with the things he's saying, and I'm seeing as much as he's trying to castigate PLP as wherein...
No, I have not. I have not castigated.
I'm just saying, okay.
And by the way, even old people are good for deliberation.
Exactly.
Okay, it's done.
Let us
I actually want to say that if you heard Honorable Martha Karua's speech during the relaunch of the brand reveal of the party,
that is right.
she actually said that for all these things, we have a national crisis. For better education system, Ruto must go. For the better health system, Ruto must go. So everything that you have said is we are actually aligned in terms of what you're saying. We are actually calling for progressives. So in your capacity on what you're doing, it is great because you're mobilizing and engaging the youth. The same thing as what
young
you're doing.
People.
Yeah, the youth, young people.
No, youth are defined in the Constitution. 18
young people
to
can go
34.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, Sawa, the young people. And the same thing that we're doing here on this other side. So we are actually doing the right thing. And what we're saying is that we must unite the youth, which is the largest population. They are not a special interest group. They are the largest population. And we must be able to unite them and have this collective conversation on what kind of leadership and what kind of country do we want now that we are saying Ruto must go. What does Ruto must go actually look like? Is it about the person or is it really about the governance system that we're currently having? So it's not, that's what we're saying.
At
that
the moment, it seems like...
No, let us finish. Mugambi, I'll give you a chance. Just write it down.
But to be honest, it's not a personal issue. It's because he symbolizes everything that they are going through, everything that youths are going through in terms of the new funding model for education, in terms of the health system that is not working, in terms of the joblessness. I mean, this is a national crisis. Unemployment rate is at a high and it's increasing with time. It's a national crisis. So everything that the youths are experiencing, even us are sitting here, it is something that now this person who is the head of state symbolizes. So it's not just a person. To me, personally, when we say, when Ruto must go is said, I don't see it as it is just about the person. It is really just us identifying this person with all the issues that we are currently having and saying that the current leadership does not reflect the aspirations of the youth or the young people.
Okay, Kasumu.
I
know Maliba alluded that you have derailed. That you need to be found.
No, in all honesty, I think he said that he said it using far less any terms, and those are not terms which I disagree with, because it would be dishonest of me to sit here on this panel and if we are having differing strategic approaches, still say that that we are saying the same thing. So I totally understand that, and to that I say I think in the space-time continuum, it will be more apparent what it is that we're trying to do. But you know, at this point now, I'll just have to say that it is the Orange Democratic Movement Youth League that will capture power in 2027. Yeah, because some of these declarations have to be made.
It's
because
funny.
I made a very elaborate speech about what Ruto must go means at the Catholic University of East Africa last year, sometime in July. And now these things which PLP are now coming to say at their relaunch, at their newfound passion. These are things which I delved into rather surgically. And if we're talking about the danger of us focusing on a negation, is if we're saying that President William Ruto is our problem, what is our alternative? You see, if we are only saying must go, and I'm not off, and that's why I'm saying at this point then we will have to declare it is the Orange Democratic Movement Youth League that will take power, is who is going to come and what is the alternative idea? Because if I kick out...
You know, the alternative is actually in the Constitution.
Yes, let me land. Because even at these, and remember, Maliba, you'll run into some headwinds because there are very many people who call themselves progressive forces. If we're going to be honest, the only true progressive forces that we have, the only true leftist parties that we have, are the ones on the far left-leaning ones. But if I get to the far left, there are also problems which are equally as deep as the ones in the right. When I sit here and we represent real people, we interact with these people. When you see us walking through the Kina CDF, like these are real people who put their bodies, they donate their bodies to whatever cause it is. If we go to a protest, they will be there. If we call a rally, they are going to be there. Then suddenly, if I reduce this to Ruto going, imagine if he leaves office and then, because, and you'll realize the reason why PLP is really struggling is...
We're not struggling.
I'll explain what I mean by they're struggling. People when they talk about it, they don't talk about PLP as an alternative group. They say the Gachagua camp. It is because currently, of the people in your ranks, the only person who can pull as much true popularity is Gachagua. Not that his ideals are the ones you stand for. That's why people are saying they're not seeing the alternative. And that's why I'm saying, if I move from Ruto to Gachagua, that is not liberation. I would rather stick with President Ruto. However, I am not saying that is where I'm casting my vote.
Me, I am launch his party so that you stop.
I'm not waiting. The thing which I'm saying, I do not care much for.
He's already declared.
Yeah.
What he might declare. Even me, I am declaring right now. All power will be where the ODM Youth League will be. However, if we have to focus on the counter ideology, because remember when we started, the thing that got us beaten was that better economic approach. It was an issue-based thing. So we have to provide this alternative. And here at the Youth League, we have it, that we are focusing on education, we're focusing on healthcare, we're focusing on proper water and sanitation, we're focusing on food security. And these things, if you think about it, all of them are joined. We're having corruption as an enabler is deeper. It's not enough that you say that there is corruption or you jail the corrupt person, because if you're thinking, for example, of security, insecurity is not caused by rogue elements in society, it's caused by underdevelopment. So we are seeking, even this devolution thing that people are talking about, this 10-year-old thing, well, 85% of resources still remain at national government. If we can find ways of consolidating an education fund such that not every Tom, Dick and Harry who is called Mheshimiwa has a kitty, if we can consolidate that thing and have people studying from the same fund, we will be home and dry. And these are the things we're talking about at the Youth League. Okay. If we can consolidate matters healthcare, which is a rather revolutionary idea, but at the back, is being used to loot money, as my senior Maliba said, we will be home and dry. And that's why we are saying, as young people, if I look at everyone here on the table, I could find an old politician that I will attach you to and castigate you for their sins. It is rather unfortunate that when we sit on this table, I cannot hear Diana for who she is, an accomplished marketer. The things we can write home about these people, just to mention, she's also a Mandela Washington Fellow, an experienced communications person, but when she comes here, she's even come with a purple pen, that she cannot see herself outside the identities. So Kenya will not... The thing is, okay, Namaliza. I'm not speaking on your behalf, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, as young people, this is the burden we have to bear, that knowing that I cannot attack any of Maliba's credentials or Diana's credentials, because these are solid young people, or Mugambi's credentials. However, the easiest way for me to bring them down is find there's a path they've seen, the path that assures them a safe delivery. That is why you are attacking, Kenyans are attacking Maliba for associating with UDA, despite the fact that he has gone there as an expert and donated his expertise, as we also have donated to, but and to Diana, her communication can be written by and large. So as young people, if we do not consolidate this and find ways of bringing our voices together...
Trevor, he has not landed. No, yes, I mean, he has not landed.
Yes,
he has not landed.
That's no. Namaliza too. Namaliza. As young people, we have to say that, and be honest, that these are our shortest routes to power. Okay. And we cannot continue this politics. It is the easiest form of politics. I sit here and think of myself rather truly as a lowlife, that I have shied away. I have not once talked about, approached Diana as a person, but I've dealt with her as an entity, and not even her. I've subjugated her to the fact that I feel like when she's sitting here, she's holding grief for Martha Karua, despite the fact that Martha Karua approached her for her prowess. We should be discussing with Arnold Maliba as a party leader, as a person who has done a rather grave thing, a rather solemn thing. We should give him more time, because he has declared presidential ambitions on this panel, but we have laughed it off. This is the problem which we will face. A person who, speaking for me, is a person whose rights and best interests I should always forge for. No. If she speaks for me, because PLP seeks to liberate all the young people, if she is seeking for the betterment of all Kenyans, if she's seeking for the betterment of my conditions, I should not be fighting her on this panel. Okay. But now we've reduced us and saying, now when you see me, you want to brandish my party leader. We want to, if we reduce it to that, then we cheapen this conversation.
Okay, Mugambi.
The wait has been too long.
As was ours for you.
and somehow you've managed to navigate the issues around Maliba. what are the alternatives if we're saying we are attaching Kazma to Baba, Diana to
Martha Karua,
to Mama Martha Karua, and Arnold, who is UDA political.
No, Mugabe is being deliberate. He knows.
He's well calculated.
This one is my 15-year-old friend.
That's the same thing I was telling you when Maliba was calling me dream. What is happening is very deliberate over here.
So it's one monkey shifting from this forest to another. But, you know, let me say, the alternatives must be clear. In absence of that, my comments are the same.
Yeah.
We end up with the same thing, and I think the establishment, where establishment means the people who have been around political circles for 40 years or so are not going to budge. I don't think they are going to budge. They are more organized. We need to be very, very, very organized and very prepared for this. And we must not just talk about the casual issues around the new funding model casually, and Taifa Care casually, and these governance issues casually. There are economics of it, Trevor. And I ask myself, if we're saying we need an alternative, what is that alternative? Number two, how are we different from what is happening already? Are we going to be different? We are talking about, I listened to our Minister of Finance, the Treasury, CS, John Bundy, and he was saying we're on the edge and we have no room for maneuver. It's almost crunch time. So if we are saying these are the alternatives, then we must also be ready to not just casually talk about how, you know, different we are, how now we've rebranded, how far we've gone. What are the alternatives? Because
I'd like to see some of the alternatives.
These things will come to bite us a year later.
I agree.
A year later, if we are trying to bullshit around these things, for lack of a better word.
What's your language?
We must be prepared to show the alternatives and how we're going. If we're saying there is something, if we don't want Taifa Care, for instance, what's the alternative? Are we funding it? What do we have for it? Can we make what is there work? And I've sat through so many events that are issue-based, that have cross-cutting you know, members from different political parties, alliances, affiliations, and who think differently. And I'm thinking we need to agree that this is our country. There's nobody who is moving to wherever. And the more I try to fight Diana or Maliba or Kazma, the more I'm fighting my country. Can we talk about our country and the issues that we have and how we can get our issues over the line? How can we sort out all these issues? If the new funding model is not working, I had a conversation with university students about the new funding model, and their issues were, for instance, someone who is from a needy background is in band 4 or thereabout, and they are not able to, if the fee they're supposed to pay moved from 70,000 to about 300,000. The HELB, the Higher Education Laws Board, was paying for this amount of money. Right now, it's more than triple. Then I had a conversation with the vice chancellors of the universities about the same. By the way, the new funding model was proposed by the VCs because some of the universities are crumbling down. They are collapsing. They have no money. And they are the ones who came up with all these proposals for them to sustain their universities. They are very happy with the new funding model, but they're not talking about it. They have left it as a burden to the president to explain, and somehow, some way, even within the government circles, it's only the president who talks about it, who talks about government programs, who talks about, like he said himself, the sole communicator in government. The VCs who propose this model now are not talking about it. It's the burden of the president to talk about it. It's the burden of the president to implement it. But the university, I was having a conversation with someone, they're saying now, we have liquidity, some liquidity to pay debts in our universities because there is money coming in. What is going to the University of Eldoret is what is going to Chuka University, is what is going to Technical University of Mombasa. As if the medical course in whichever university is at the University of Nairobi is the same across board as a university in Meru, because they rationalize that and trying to ensure that money goes to the schools. But there are issues because the means testing tool, or rather the questions you're being asked so that they make a decision on where to place you in terms of which band to place you, how much money you're going to pay, has issues. Because if you place a needy student in a band that they are not able to pay. So those issues need to be addressed and so that we get our young people, the students in the universities, paying what they can afford. If we are talking about those things as young people, sorting out these issues, then I think the conversation should progress to now, how do we change the means testing tools? How do we ensure that students get the right band that they're supposed to be in? And I said, Trevor, the conversation must move to solutions. We can't complain forever.
All right, let's bring up the views. I'll come to you. Let's bring up the views just quickly and see what people are saying at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag DayBreak. There's a lot coming through. Let's read them. Bobo Tieno Weno says, youth have no agenda on the table. They are like a snake without a head. They can't stand on their own but depend on political bigwigs. Okay? Frank Orinde, the KK regime seems not to have learned any lessons from the Gen Z-led protests last year. Gen Z boldly spoke out against the ills and failures of the government, a message that resonates with all Kenyans. Nixon says, dear youths, avoid engagement with dirty politics. Mtaumia sana. Kindly note we are fast approaching the ultimate inversion, when the stage where the government is free to do anything it pleases. Babu Michael says, Trevor, tell Maliba, although he now seems to speak in support of issues concerning the youth, he still needs to clarify the doubts that they have about his intentions. Most youth feel they have been sent to disrupt the initial youth movement. Okay? Gabi says youth make up 75% of Kenya's population, but are they truly represented in decision-making spaces? It's not just about getting involved, it's about staying involved. There's an urgent need to address the barrier to youth political participation. Frank says, does the president listen? Trevor, ask Kasmuel whether the issues raised by Gen Z, especially on corruption, unemployment, and incompetence in government, have been addressed, or is this just a classic case of different forests? Same monkeys, like Mugambi said. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for making time. We've run out of time on here on DayBreak. Coming up next is DJ Gigi. Thank you. Have a good morning.
This one is ready.